Thunderbolts is the 36th installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It sees the return of a bunch of beloved characters like Yelena, played by Florence Pugh, Red Guardian, played by David Harbour, Ghost, played by Hannah John Kamen, Taskmaster, played by Olga Kurylenko, Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan, and John Walker, or as I call him, Asshole Captain America, played by Wyatt Russell. After finding themselves ensnared in a death trap, 7 disillusioned cast-offs must embark on a dangerous mission that will force them to confront the darkest corners of their past. I think it's no secret that Marvel hasn't had their A game for quite a while now. They've had some really good movies, and then they kind of had some really just okay movies, in my opinion. Nothing that's been outright horrible, but the quality has definitely lessened since Endgame. I don't think there's any denying that. I was probably in denial for a little bit, but I've come to realize that. But I still do enjoy these movies to an extent. I'm not one of those people that's going to go online and hate these movies to death like it has become popular to. I'm just not that kind of person. When Marvel cooks, they cook. Thunderbolts is a really good movie. It's some of Marvel's darkest material to date. It's some of their weirdest material to date. And just the fact that it feels like a cast off of rejects. It's essentially Marvel's Suicide Squad. These rejected characters that you know would probably never amount to anything. They would probably never be the A-listers on the Avengers. But here we are, the Thunderbolts. Probably going to make a shit-tillion dollars at the box office, and they're going to become really popular. And a lot of these characters are coming back for Avengers Doomsday. So there you go. I think the one that really shines in this movie, and the movie is centered around her character, is Florence Pugh. I like Flo Pugh a lot. Everything I see her in, she just somehow maximizes all her talent. I don't think that she's necessarily stuck in this realm of big budget blockbusters because she has shown her range in so many other things that everything I see Flo Pugh in, I want to see because she's got such an enormous range of talent, as does everybody in this movie. David Harbour is probably the next one in this movie that I think is a massive, massive standout. Sure, he's the comic relief guy, but then he's also there for the heartfelt moments. There's a nice scene between Red Guardian and Yelena late in the movie that almost brought me to tears. There's a lot of emotion behind this. And that's something that I feel like Marvel hasn't had enough of in its recent movies. Or at least what they're trying to do that, and they don't necessarily hit it on the head. What this movie tackles in terms of its themes, it seems like previous Marvel movies for the past couple of years have tried to tackle things like this, but just never really thought it out as well as this movie really did. I think that this is probably the most emotional movie and thematic movie since Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And that's saying a lot. There's a lot here that goes on about loneliness, about the feeling of rejection, mental health. I saw somebody make a joke that this is the mental health Avengers. And the movie really touches upon that and never shies away from it, which is a big reason why it feels like some of Marvel's darkest material to date is touching on heavy things like that. I think the overall story here too is pretty interesting. I was digging it right from the bat. I like all the chemistry between everybody. Everybody works really well. They have great banter off of each other. It's that typical type of thing where it's like they all band together, but they all argue with each other, and then they have to learn to come together as a team. Yeah, it's that whole thing, but I never tire of seeing that. This also feels like an actual movie for the first time in a long time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Felt like I was watching actors perform their own stunts, film on location with actual real props and sets instead of against a giant green screen. Of course, you have your green screen moments, but even in those CGI green screen moments, this is probably the most clean in terms of the CGI that I've seen Marvel in quite a while. I didn't notice any CGI. I mean, I could tell where I was like, yeah, that's definitely a set, but the background of it though, if you were to tell me that, hey, that was actually filmed on location in some like bunker somewhere, I'd probably believe you because that's how cleaned up it looked. And when I say this movie gets weird, it gets weird, man. The last third of this movie, of course, everybody's gonna, in a movie like this, where you have a ragtag team of rejects that come together and are like punching and kicking and shooting everybody, you're obviously gonna want that in the third act. But the movie doesn't do that. I think one of the biggest aspects of what makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe really good at many points is when they just throw weird things into movies that you don't expect. Thunderbolts is one of those movies where they throw some weird things at you that you're not really expecting. But I think that's also a detriment to this movie because it does make the movie feel anticlimactic. I don't necessarily need punching and kicking and shooting time and bullets spraying and people flinging through buildings and all that in the third act here. Yeah, I thought maybe that's what would happen, but that's not what happens. I really did like what happened. It just felt like the way that it ended after that happened, it felt abrupt. It felt anticlimactic. And it felt like we were building, even in those moments, it felt like it was building up to something bigger and it didn't necessarily deliver on something bigger. The action in this movie too. I think the action looks clean. It's in camera. It's filmed really well. It's just not very memorable. It doesn't feel as intense as it should be. There are some really gritty, visceral, brutal moments when it comes to like hand-to-hand combat and some things that happen to other characters, but when there's actual like action going down, like when it's a full-blown action sequence, there's nothing really all that memorable about it. So I guess that those are kind of my two negatives with Thunderbolts. But I still really enjoyed Thunderbolts. If you're one of those people that's gotten off the MCU train, you're just like, it hasn't been that good since Endgame. I suggest giving Thunderbolts a try. This is definitely one of their better ones of the multiverse saga. It's also not weighted down by any of that multiverse stuff. And that's what it had to be. Sure, does it feel like a sequel to Black Widow? Does it feel like a sequel to Falcon and Winter Soldier? Does it feel like a sequel to Ant-Man and the Wasp? At times, but none of that weighs it down. Even if Florence Pugh and David Harbour feel front and center, but we haven't really seen much of them since Black Widow. So that made sense. And even when the side characters take back seats, they're still a part of the movie. They're never pushed to the side just to make it feel like, oh, it's Florence Pugh's movie, or it's just David Harbour's movie. We're just going to focus on them two. No, everybody has their moments to shine, even if it feels like maybe sometimes it feels like they don't have much to do. I've seen that argument so far with Ghost in this movie. But as I said, give it a try if you have not been a big fan of Marvel recently. I think it's one of their better ones. Seems like everybody's starting to kind of get back on the Marvel train because Deadpool and Wolverine was so good. Captain America Brave New World was for a lot of people, but maybe, just maybe, they just need to string together a couple of good movies and people will be like, okay, maybe Doomsday will be good, maybe Secret Wars will be good. And Thunderbolts, I think, is a good step in the right direction. I really enjoyed Thunderbolts with a full bucket of popcorn. So if you guys have seen Thunderbolts, let me know what you think of it. I will have a spoiler video coming to you this weekend very soon. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.